Hey guys, it's been a while since I've put a video out. It's been a long, cold, snowy winter, and I just haven't been motivated to get into the shop. Also, I had a bunch of carpentry jobs to do over the winter that were on timelines, and I couldn't really film it, so that's why I haven't put a video out in a while. But my daughter needed a night table bookshelf situation. So this is what I came up with. It's all poplar. It's got an antique white stain on it. It was a pretty easy build, though it did take a lot of hours because there were a lot of things to figure out, a lot of sanding, a lot of details to do. But it's like a 24 by 20 inch base with a drawer and a shelf, and then this tree style bookshelf. So if you want to see how we did it, check the video out. And it looks like we have some work to do before we get to work. Wow, what a mess. Hey guys, so I have a stack of poplar here. This project's going to be, it's either going to be painted antique white or it's going to get a semi-translucent stain, you know, the stains with a pigment in it. So this is roughly what it's going to look like. I'll actually find a picture to put up on the screen. So it's going to be a 24 inch by like 20 inch nightstand, and then it's going to have this, it's called a tree style bookshelf. So there'll be a back beam, and then they'll be at 45 degree angles, and then each shelf's perpendicular to each other. There'll be shelves to stack books on, and it's probably going to be about 5.5, 6 feet high. I'm going to make it. So the first thing I'm going to do is start chopping this poplar down to size, and then I'm going to start running it through the thickness planer. So welcome back, and let's get to it. Also, I haven't even looked at my channel, so I'm hoping it's still there. We'll find out when I go to post this. Either you're going to be seeing this or you're not. All right, so these boards are 10 feet long. My box for my bookshelf or my nightstand is going to be 24 inches. So theoretically, I could get all 4 pieces out of this, but that doesn't leave a lot of room to square up the edges and also planer snipe and stuff. So I'm just going to make them, since I have plenty of wood, I got 2 of them here. I'm just going to make these 30 inches. I'm going to get 3 out of each board. So I'll have 2 extra pieces for other things, and then I'll have plenty of room to deal with planer snipe and squaring up the edges. So 30 is what we're going with. So 30, 60, 90. Come on. Man, seriously? Well, at least it wasn't a $1,000 Festool saw. All right, so this is what I ended up with here. So these are gonna make up my box. So my box is gonna be 13 inches wide, so I'm gonna glue 2 of these together. That's why there's 8. These 2 longer ones are gonna be the backbone that supports the shelves. These are going to be the shelves. Now these boards are about 7 inches, I believe. My tape right here. Yeah, they're about, that's about 6.5. And I want my shelf probably to be 8 or 9 inches. So I'm probably gonna mill these down a little further and then glue 2 pieces together to make the 8 inches. And then this is just some extra cutoffs here. So next up, I think we're going to head over to the jointer and get them squared up, and then we'll thickness plane them. All right, let's go. All right, I haven't used this thing in a while, so it's just checking to see if this was in coplane, and it's definitely not. I don't know if you can see here. You can see the big gap right here, and then it's tighter over here. If I move it up a little bit, oh, going the wrong way. If I move it up a little bit, you can see it gets tight there, but there's still a gap here. So I just have to give this a little bit of an adjustment before I start squaring these boards up. Looks good. Hey, good morning guys. I just opened up the shop this morning. There is a tree service operating across the street, so it's probably going to get a little loud in here today when they start the wood chipper up. But yesterday I jointed a face and an edge on these boards to get them ready for the thickness planer. Now that's my old Craftsman thickness planer over there, which I've been having issues with. It's the rollers are not sticking anymore. It doesn't pull the boards through very well, and I'm having alignment issues with it. So I bought the planer that the whole world has, the DeWalt. All right, so for those of you who are not familiar with this thickness planer, it has its own fan on the exhaust port, and it's pretty strong. And what I originally had is I had this 2-inch PVC going into an open pail with just a bag, but it blows so strong it was blowing all the sawdust that was in the pail out of the pail. So then I cut an inlet hole, and then I had an outlet hole, and then what was happening, it was blowing the top off the garbage can. That's how much air pressure is going in. So I couldn't get a clamp to stay on here, and then my father-in-law walked over with one of these bags for a vacuum. It's almost like an air collection bag. So I hooked that up. Actually, if I turn this on, you'll see it works pretty well. So that works pretty well. So that's what I've been using for my dust collection. Shut this off. So I'm probably going to end up ordering a proper dust collection bag with a round fitting on the end, and then hook something up proper instead of this jerry-rigged thing here. All right, let's get to thickness planing. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to cut these down in width. Now that I have a jointed edge and a faced edge, we're going to cut these down to 6.5, and that will make our glue up 13 inches, which is what we want. Alright, that's where we're at, 6.5. Camera's too close, but we made the cut. All right, so I have my boards cut down the size, thickness plane, jointed, and I'm just going to lay out for some dominoes for the glue up. I'm just going to put 3 dominoes. These are 6 by 40 mil dominoes. Actually, that is no good, because if I make this 20, and so I'm going to have to start labeling these top and bottom so that I don't accidentally make this board 20 inches and cut into my domino. So before I actually do this layout, I'm going to choose which boards look the best for my top. I'm going to choose my top, my bottom, my sides, so I know exactly where to put my dominoes. All right, let's do that. Okay, so I went through all my boards and I labeled them sides, bottom, and top. So this is the top, so I'm going to keep that layout that I had and get this dominoed up. Okay, so I only have to do that about 14 more times. All right, so I got a couple of glue ups going in clamps right now. All right, so all of the domino drilling is done. I already glued up the 3 components, and this is the last glue up right here. So I glued the other 3 glue ups offline because who really likes to watch glue ups? And the only reason why I'm showing you this one is because I have a little story to tell. So when I was doing the first glue up and I had stuck my dominoes in, the domino didn't go down all the way, and I was hitting it pretty hard with the mallet. And I had both sides glued already, so I was starting to panic a little bit. I ended up pulling the dominoes out, which was pretty difficult because they were already starting to swell. And then I stuck a gauge in there, and the hole seemed fine. And what had actually happened is, I guess there was too much glue in the holes, and the glue, the extra glue in the holes is supposed to ride up these channels when you bang them in. So when you bang this domino in, if there's any glue at the bottom of the hole, it should squeeze out. Now there's no squeeze out there because I didn't put a lot of glue in because of what happened before. I'll put a little bit more in this hole. Let me just see if you guys can see that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So you should, I'm going to put a little bit more actually. Let's make this extreme. So now when I hammer this in, I'm also going to mark like the halfway point on here. So that's like the halfway point there. So I'm going to hammer this in. And I mean, it's not that much proud of the line, maybe 1/8 of an inch, but you heard that. It's not going in, but. Wow, I'm surprised there wasn't more squeeze out than that. Now you hear that sound and how hard I'm hitting it, and it's not going down. Oh, I split my board. Look at that, trying to show you guys something, and I ended up splitting the board. Ugh, that sucks. That's the, what would you call that, hydraulic pressure? The glue pushing out the sides. So let's see if I can save this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this back in there. Hopefully the glue is going to ride out into the crack, and I'll clamp it. And we'll see what it looks like. If not, if it's no good, I'll just, damn, that sucks. I'll just mill another piece. I can't believe I did that. All for you guys. What's crazy, it wasn't even that close to the edge. I mean, and this is poplar. I mean, poplar is not the hardest wood, but it's usually pretty strong. I mean, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of upholstered furniture the frames of it is poplar. All right, I'm gonna put a caul across that. Ugh, what a disaster. All right, so all I have done is drop them into the clamps. I'm going to put a caul across the side that has the split in it. All right. So what I usually do is I tighten the clamps initially until I get some good squeeze out and it's together, and then I usually back it off, and then go again, but the second time I just make it firm and that's it. So I don't know if it's showing up on camera. I wiped the glue away, but this is where it's split right here. And the good news, now that I'm looking at it, now that it's in clamps and I'm not rushing anymore, this side right here, even though this is the top, this is the bottom of the top. So the split is on the inside of the cabinet, which is good. So I think we'll be able to reuse this. Okay, so these boards are definitely too big for my joiner. You can see this gap I have in the middle here, and these are the two jointed edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it on the table saw using my level to go through as the fence. So I'm going to have the board on here, and I'm going to run it through with the level, and that's going to give me a straight line. So let's do that. So I just want to give a brief explanation of how the level works to joint an edge. So I'm going to use this little level, pretend this is my fence for the saw. So if this board had a bow in it and this little fence was fixed, what would happen is when you're pushing your board through that fence, it would the bow of the board would follow the contours with the fence. Probably will make more sense when I put the big level here. Now when I have this big level with the fence and I run them through as one unit, it's staying parallel to the blade the whole time. So even if there was like a little bow right here, it doesn't matter because the board is staying parallel because the level is straight to the fence and we're running it through as one unit. I hope that makes sense. That wasn't the best explanation, but that's how it works. Okay, so I dominoed and glued up the backbone to the shelf part of the nightstand. And we're gonna let this dry overnight so that we can be ready to rock and roll tomorrow. Okay, so just took the backbone out of the clamps. Just clean up this glue a little bit. Okay, so I have the top of the box sitting in my sled on the table saw. I am going to use this to put the 45 degree on both edges of the top. I already did that edge. And the reason why I'm using the sled as opposed to my miter box is, one, this is about an inch too big for my miter box. This is 13 inches and my miter box only really cuts 12. And a 12-inch cut on my miter box probably isn't as accurate as the sled will be on the table saw. So those are the two reasons why I'm using this. All right, let's give it a go. All right, so this is the offcut from the top, the 45 I just did. I just snapped it over my knee, and at the end of this board, there's no domino in here, and I just want to show you, it broke on the board and not on the glue joint. So that just shows you how strong a glue joint is, even a butt. And on that note, this is the top. This is the top of the top. This is where the crack was, where I blew it out with the domino. So I don't know if you can see, but you can, I mean, you're not going to see this because this is the glue up edge, but the crack is right here. And then you can see it right here on the bottom of the board. But once I sand the bottom, you won't see it. And again, this is the inside of the cabinet, so catastrophe avoided. Okay, now with all of my pieces for the box cut and mitered, I need to dado the sides to accept the shelf before I put this all together and sand it all. So I think I want an 8-inch drawer. So I'm going to measure up from the bottom. Drawer is going to be on the bottom, 8 inches, and then that's going to leave me, it's going to be an inch divider. So that's going to leave me with like an 11-inch shelf on top, and I think that will be good for what we need. So I'm going to mark this. This is the top. I'm going to put these two sides together. So this is my other side. So I've marked everything so I don't get confused. So this is the top right, this is the top left. I have them opposite right now. The dado is going to go all the way through front to back, so that's good like that. So let me get a straight edge. All right, so that's the start of my dado. The shelf's going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. So this is the front of the right side, and this is the front of the left side. I'll have to fill this dado in with a piece of 3/4 by 1/2 inch, because once I build the box, I want to route a profile on the inside, on the facing edge, so that it has a nice reveal, and I'm using this router bit. And to keep the, so once the box is put together, so this is going to be one of the sides, I have to route it from the top, and this bearing is going to fall into that dado if I don't put a plug there. So I'll have to put a temporary plug there after I cut it with the track saw. So that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully it all works out. It should. Flip the track over, do the next pass, and then clean it up with the chisel. Alright, so I ended up making a bunch of curve cuts in there, and now I'll just chisel it out. Okay, so we're all chiseled out, and this shelf board fits in nice and snug. So I think the next order is to get this box all glued up. Correction, I'm going to sand the inside surfaces and then we'll glue it up. Okay, nobody wants to watch this, just know that I did it. All right, see you in a couple hours. Before and after. Okay, so I sanded all of the components for the box, the 4 pieces. Then I realized before I glue this up, I need to get the shelf in there. I could slide it in from the back. If I want to do that, it might be hard to slide it in. But anyway, I want to make the shelf anyway just to see how it fits before I assemble the box. And I didn't have enough of the poplar that I bought, the 6/4 poplar that I bought, so I ended up running to Home Depot to get some 3/4. And by the way, 3/4 by 6, a 6-foot piece, $25. This is March of 2026. $25 for a 6-foot piece of poplar. That is madness. Definitely much cheaper to buy rough sawn wood from your lumber distributor and mill it yourself. So I got my pieces cut to the rough length. I do have to joint it It is, even though this is supposed to be S4 or whatever it is, I still have to joint this. So I'm going to quickly joint this, throw a couple of dominoes in it, and glue it up. All right, so I just have this standing up on my table here, and I'm coming down 2 inches, marking around the corners from the top and the bottom. And this is where my domino is going to go for the 45s. So I have my domino set to 45 degrees, and the cutter goes on the cut, the angle cut, and then you can see the line here on the domino machine, and then you can see the line here on my piece. So I'm just going to slide this over till they line up, and then I make my cut. Okay, so I lost some audio here and there, but what I'm showing here is I have the backbone and I'm showing where I'm going to cut a half lap into it. And then it's laying under the top now, and I'm also gonna cut a half lap into the top. So that's what I'm doing here with the jigsaw. Cutting out half the thickness of the backbone, which is a 1/2 inch, because the backbone is 1 inch. And this is just so I have a stronger joint there. It'll keep that big, 4-foot section from falling left or right. So I'm just cutting it with the track saw set to a 1/2 inch deep. All right, so I have the backbone clamped to the table. I have a piece of wood here that my fence can ride on. Oh, not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, now I'm just using a chisel to clean out that inside corner where the 2 blade cuts didn't quite meet up. And then just a little extra flattening out with the plane. And here is a dry fit of the backbone to the cabinet top. So now just hammering in some dominoes on the 45s, and I'm going to start the glue up. So this is the side to the top. I know it's the top because I have the cutout to where the backbone is going to be. So here's one of those instances where, it should be clamped to the table clearly because it's moving all over the place, but you just keep progressing the hard way. All right, so clamp, and then I think we're gonna throw a corner clamp in the corners there just to keep it square, and then we're gonna get to the gluing the bottom on next. Now, when I did the bottom, I had a little bit of an issue because those corner clamps were holding me that's lined up tight from expanding it out. You'll see here. Twist it out of square. I wonder if it's the clamps causing it. Or is it just because, oh, it is, it's these are not letting it bend out. That's fine, it will bend. I just don't want to get my finger caught in there. There we go. So what was happening is these clamps and these corner clamps here were not letting the sides bow out to overcome the extra width because of the dominoes. Alright, let me get some clamps on this baby. Alright, so we're all squared up in clamps now. I'll let this dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll slide the shelf in, we'll get the backbone on, we'll figure out the shelves that are going on the backbone, and I also have to make a drawer. Forgot about that. So lots to do still. All right, let's pick it up in the morning. All right, so I gave it most of a first pass there. So I have a little bit of an issue in that I'm using this old Portacable router that has no variable speed, and really with a big bit like this, you want to go at a slower speed. My Bosch plunge router, sitting over here, which does have variable speed, won't turn on. I took the top off it, I sprayed it all out with the air compressor, I moved the brushes in and out, just does not want to start. So I did a light pass with that bit because it's scary, and you can see we got a little bit of burning here. And so you can see how much I did, but I probably want to be more to like here. I want like a 3/8 reveal, and right now I probably have a 3/4 inch reveal. So I'm gonna finish this pass, and then I'm gonna change the depth, and then do a final pass, and hopefully it'll work. And then you can see my little, actually see this one over here, my little filler that I stuck in here so that the router bearing doesn't go into that divot. And then I'll pop those out when I'm done. I'll slide the shelf in. All right, so let's finish this up. All right, that's first pass. Looks pretty good. Let me change the depth. We'll give it another go. All right, that's not bad. It was feeling a little sketchy, but it's nice and smooth. Okay, I'm just squaring up these corners now. So I work from the corner out, and I keep the flat backside of the chisel with the angle, and you just work it a little bit at a time. And before you know it, you got a nice crisp corner. All right, that's looking pretty good, so I just have to do it 3 more times. Okay, now I'm just gonna rabbet a 3/8 groove out all around the back here with my rabbeting bit in the router to accept the plywood back. Okay, I got the back all routed out. I gave the shelf a test fit, and it fits nice, so I'm just gonna glue her in. Not too much glue, it doesn't take much to hold it. I mean, it's basically just to hold it from sliding out. Let's get her in. All right, so I've been laying this out, trying to get it to look right. At first, I had these pieces going from end to end at the starting points, but the gap was just way too big. So then what I did is I measured 3 inches off center either side, and now I have it going there, and I think that spacing looks pretty good. So I think I'm gonna go with that. All right, so I'm gonna start laying this out on the backboard. Like I said, it's gonna be a 45-degree angle, so I got my square there. I'm just going to mark where this is gonna get cut. Since this is a 45 and this is half of it, I'm guessing this cut's gonna be a 22.5, but I guess we'll see. So apparently I wasn't even close with that angle. It's not a 22.5, it's a 45, which I guess makes sense because that's 90, so half of 90 is 45. Okay, I like the way that fits. So let's move on. Okay, so this took some figuring out. It was a little bit harder than I thought it would be. So I ended up making a bunch of marks on my backbone and laying it out on here just to make sure it looks right. And then what I was able to determine was this distance is 7 3/4 inches. So if I mark 7 3/4 on each board, it all works out. Now I'm sure there was probably a way to figure this out with a formula mathematically, but I had to physically lay it there. All right, so on every board, I am measuring up 7 3/4, scoring a line across it. Then I'm taking a 3/4 inch spacer, and then I'm marking that so that I know my board goes here, so that I don't put it on the wrong side of the line. Now I know all these lines are going to cause me grief because I'm going to have to get them off eventually before I finish it, but I need it here just to make sure everything's good. So now I need to figure out how I'm going to attach these butt joints, because everything's going to go like this now. So this gets butted here. Then the next one is going to go on this line that way, like this, and so on. So what I think I'm going to do, so that we don't have any fasteners showing, I'm just going to put some dominoes in here. So I'll put like 2 dominoes in every board and then glue it. And then the backbone is what's really going to hold it, but I want to glue this whole structure up before I put it on the backbone. I think it'll just be easier to do it that way. And then I also can remove all the lines that I've made on my backbone. I'm gonna have to remove all these lines before I finish it. All right, so let me figure out how to domino a butt joint like that, because there's a special way you have to set the cutter on this board, and I don't do it often, so I forget. So I'll have to just figure that out real fast. All right, so I figured out how the dominoes go. So it's always so much easier than I think it is. I just forget how to do it. So I already dominoed this piece together. Domino there. I just have one in for my test. I didn't put the other one in. So next we're gonna domino this shelf to this shelf. So see how it's sitting here. This going up that way is the top, going down is the bottom. So this shelf, this is the top of this shelf. This is where the other one's gonna lie. And now this side here is the top of this shelf. So what we're going to do, and here's where it could get a little confusing, but it's pretty easy. Let me set the camera up on the tripod real fast. Okay, so the way we're gonna do this is really simple, and it's best if you label everything so you know. So this is the shelf. This shelf's gonna get the dominoes here. This shelf's gonna get the dominoes in the end grain. So this is the top of this shelf. This is the top line here. And now this surface here is the top of this shelf, because the next shelf goes into here. So this is the top. So this is the top edge here. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna line the top line of this shelf up with the top line of this shelf, but in the way it fits together. So this top line is gonna match to this top line, so that when you fold it over, it's in the right groove here. So the best way to do this is take top to top. So just flop it down, just like that. So now you got your top line of this is going to the top corner of this. You clamp these two boards in place, and then I'll show you real fast how you domino it. All right, so I got my boards clamped together. Remember, this top corner is the top of this board, and then this surface is the top of this board. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna use our little tabby things here to reference how far in we're gonna go on either side, just because it's easier, it's quick. Now, what's important when you're dominoing is always to reference from the same side. And in this case, instead of referencing from your top plate here, which is how you normally do it, we're gonna reference off the base plate. And we're gonna reference like this and like this. So we're gonna stick our little tabby thing on here, lock it in. We're gonna go down, and we're gonna use our tab again into the butt end of this board, and we're gonna go in. Now I'm just gonna do it real fast. Okay, also important thing to remember is how big your bit is. So this is a number 5, and I have it set to 15 millimeters, which is just slightly more than half of 3/4, so that you don't come out the bottom. So you can see I got like a 1/4 inch left there. All right, so now you can see the 2 holes I made. Pull the clamps off. I'm gonna grab that test domino. So this is a test domino just because I gave it a little bit of a sanding so that it fits a little easier. It's easier to put in, put out. So that goes in like that. You fold this one up. Come on, get in there. And you can see it lines up with my lines nicely. So pretty easy. It's just remembering it is the hard part. All right, let's get the rest of these done. All right, so now it's time to glue all of these shelves together. I have the painter's tape on there just to make the cleanup easier. It's always better to keep the glue off the finished areas. Makes cleanup much better. So that's the first shelf getting set. And then we're going to put, the 90-degree clamp on there. We're going to clamp it. We're going to let it set. And this is what took a long time because I can only do the 2 shelves at a time. And then I would have to let it set. And then once it was set, I could start on another shelf, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm banging those dominoes in. I'm doing the same procedure, the 90-degree clamps, and then the bar clamps to keep it in there, let it dry, let it set, and then on to the next one. So that's done. I have it sitting on the backbone just to see how it looks. And now I'm figuring out how or where the dominoes go from the shelves to the backbone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 dominoes in there. So what I just did is I laid out the intersection on the backbone, and then I just slid the shelf up and put my domino in, and now I'm dominoing the shelf. It's basically the same procedure as when we dominoed the shelves together. So you always have to make sure you're referencing the same spot. So see my intersection there, I got my domino in, and then it goes in the same spot on the shelf. Now here I'm using that big chamfering bit again, and I'm putting that nice bevel alongside the backbone, just so when you look at it from the side, it has a nice visual appearance. It isn't just this hunk of 1-inch thick material. So again, I think I did this in 2 passes just because that's a big bit and my variable speed wasn't working. All right, time to get this beast glued up. It's hard to line it up because I don't have any marks. I sanded them off. Come on. There we go. All right, that's one. Glad I only did 3. All right, that's 2. Just this one right here, that doesn't want to go. Let's go. Yes. All right. Clamps. All right, let me get a couple more clamps on. Right, from shelves to feet. So this is a piece of 3/4 inch, a little template I made, and that's my foot. So the foot's gonna sit on the bottom of the cabinet just like that. But 3/4 inch looked a little thin, so I'm gonna use some 1 inch here. So I marked my angle, I think it was 15 degrees, and I used my T-bevel here, locked it in at that angle, put it on there. Now I'm over to the table saw. I have my miter gauge set to 15 degrees, and I'm gonna run all the feet through the miter gauge to get my 15-degree bevel on each foot. Just like that. And then to affix them to the cabinet, I am just gluing them. That's it, just glue right there. If they ever fall off, you know, like I said, I'm owning this piece, so I'll know. If they ever get knocked off, I'll consider sticking a domino in it, but I'm sure the glue is strong enough. And then I'm just gonna sit it on the table for it to dry under its own weight, and that's a look from the front. Now, while that is drying, I'm just sticking a bevel on all of the shelves. This is a really fine bevel just to take that sharp edge off. And again, since the router bit is round, I can't get in the corners. I'm just using the chisel to square that up. And here's my finished birch plywood, 1/2 inch birch plywood, just screwing it to the back of the opening where the shelf is gonna be. Hey, good morning, everybody. So I ran out of poplar, but I did have a piece of already glued up, I believe it's maple, laying around that I cut to size for the drawer front. So it's going to go like this. And I'm just kind of trying to figure out what my handle's going to be. I think I'm just going to leave this as a flat panel. I'm not going to do any edge profile or doing an inset panel anymore. I think I'm going to do a finger pull for this, but I'm not sure. But while I'm debating that, I'm going to start making the box, or the drawer box for the drawer. So let's get started with that. All right, so I'm making the box of my drawer out of some 1/2 inch birch ply. And the way I'm going to do it, this is, one of these is the back, one of these is the front. And this is going to get cut in half to be the sides. And I'm going to, it's not going to be a half flap. I am going to, I put the width of that on the front and the back, and I'm going to dado half of this out, but I'm not going to dado half of this out. So it's not going to be a half lap. It's just going to be, this is dado, then this is going to go into that dado, front and back. And I'm just going to do that on the table saw with my miter gauge. I already set the blade to half the width, and I'm just gonna run it through till all that line is gone. All right, let's go. Perfect. Now I just gotta do the other side. All right, so I got my little dado stack in there to put a 3/16 inch groove through this. So, all right, here we go. And the pin nail is just to hold it while the glue is drying. Man, this thing's not setting them all the way. How do you adjust the depth on this? Oh, there it is. All right, so the back, or the bottom, should slide right in these grooves now. Now this dado was a little tight, so it's a snug fit. There we go. Now we can glue this on. All right, it's time for some finish. So I am putting an antique white semi-transparent stain on this. But here is a sample piece I did. So it's a pretty big difference. I think I might actually dislike this more than sanding. Putting hard wax oil finish on is not so bad because you just kind of wipe it on until it absorbs and then wipe any excess off. This is just a pain having to dip the brush in, go back, put it on, smooth out any streaks or runs. Constantly going over the areas you've done already, taking care of drips. It's just finishing this way is no fun. All right, so I have these little levelers that I want to put on. I'm going to use a threaded insert, but before I drill the threaded insert out, I want to just drill a little spot where this can recess into. So I'm using, I think this is a 1-inch Forstner bit. All right, that's good. Just enough so I could screw it down. All right, 3 more of those. Okay, then these 1/4 threaded inserts get drilled out with an 11/32 bit. It's slightly off center. Hopefully it still fits. Yep, that's good. I like that. All right, so I have a 1/2-inch piece of plywood in here to space this up because this has a little lip on it. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, the bit broke. Okay, new drill bit. I still can't believe that one broke. I wasn't pushing hard, and this is poplar. Poplar's soft, or relatively. All right, then I'll repeat on the other side and we'll test the drawer out. All right, that's both brackets in. We'll see how this fits. All right, that's pretty good. Now I'm gonna get some cards and we'll set the we'll set the face on. All right, so I got the drawer in there. I am gonna stick some double-sided tape on here. And I have some cards here, some Go Fish, because that's all I could find. I'm gonna think 3 cards on the bottom as a spacer. All right. Yeah, I think that looks good. Try and get the spacing on the sides. I think that is good. Okay, I'm gonna walk around the side here so that I can hold the back, because there's nothing holding this drawer right now. And give it a nice firm press. Uh-oh, something's stuck. All right, so now my drawer face is on there, and I'm gonna drill the screws in. Now I did notice when I was taking it out, it was rubbing slightly on the top, so I'm probably gonna have to just hit it with the plane and then just give it a touch up on the stain. With a little piece of tape to mark my depth. I'm gonna throw this in. So I've made some lines here, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this out here, and then on the back side where your finger's gonna wrap around to, I think I'm gonna probably not carve the sides out, but I think I'm gonna route out the bottom a little bit so your finger has somewhere to go into, and I think that's gonna be it. All right, so this is the back side of the drawer. I have it clamped down to my bench, and I'm gonna give a little recess in here for your finger to grip onto, instead of having to push it almost a whole inch and on over. Wondering what just went flying. It was my mic. I don't even know if you can still hear me. So there you go. So now you have a little place for your finger to go. Alright. So I have that pretty well rounded over. It feels pretty nice. Couldn't get all the burn marks out, but it's the back side of the drawer. You're not going to see it. I'm going to put a little white stain over it too. Let me turn it around so you can see the front. So that's what we're looking like in the front. I'm actually going to have to give this a little sanding because my pencil lines there that I originally drew are under the stain. So I'll have to give this another little staining. Okay, so here we are. Back in the unit. Oops. There we go, nice. All right, so that's it. She's all finished. Hope you like the way it looks. I think it came out pretty good. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.